7 years or so, this project specifically aims at improving the quality of sorghum or competitiveness of sorghum as a food ingredient, because sorghum is a major, really climate resilient crop. So we believe it is one of those crops that are going to be very important as we go forward with the drought, heat, global warming, and all related problems, challenges we are having. And so sorghum, drought tolerant, we think it has a huge potential to actually improve or kind of protect humans from kind of climate change, if you may. In Africa, especially, sorghum is a major cereal crop, it's a major staple food, and we have seen in the past that typically when consumers find alternative crops that they can think are better tasting, they move to those instead of using sorghum.
I think the next step in sorghum improvement is clearly the application of genomic and phenomic technologies in the form of genomic or phenomic selection and integrating that. If that can be done and combined with the traits that are appropriate, I think you can see a significant increase in the rate of productivity. And that is applicable not only in your fully developed countries, but it can be extended through that technology into areas that haven't been able to take advantage of technology. We're part of Joseph Owika's project in SMIL, which is to develop quality, value-added quality attributes in grain sorghum for processing and utilization. So Joseph's lab is a grain quality lab, characterizes the grain for its utilization attributes and how different traits can affect that. Our program is the breeding and development component of his program. So it's our lab, or my breeding program, that identified lines with waxy endosperm, protein digestibility in an agronomically desirable form. Created those lines so that you could produce a hybrid that had attributes that are meeting the specs for the quality that they want in a hybrid, and then providing that material to the Ethiopian program to identify the specific hybrid combinations that would be best adapted and best performing in country. There's really three things I would say that our program has become known for. First of all, specialty grain sorghums. We have developed several specialty type grain sorghums, most notably the black sorghums that have found a niche in health food markets, and the cereals, etc., for their lowering glycemic indexes, increasing antioxidant concentrations for the perceived health benefits of those by some communities. So that would certainly be one of the types that would come up. The second one would probably be the concept of bioenergy sorghums and the logistics of producing bioenergy sorghums, the types and the characteristics that are necessary to produce the hybrids that would become commercial under that gauge. And then I guess the third thing would be in the range of wide hybridization, i.e. from a breeding standpoint, and its application through new technologies of chromosomal manipulation. So we've developed lines that are more facile to hybridize to wild relatives so that you can move genes from wild relatives into sorghum if you want certain traits that those wild relatives have.
What we are working at right now is to develop a pipeline for this grain, to make sure that these grains can be produced locally, and then develop a market system where they can be produced, processed, and reach the consumers as kind of high quality, identity preserved products that consumers can really like, and the industry will be able to support. In many African countries, especially in the drought-prone areas, number one, we don't have the resources to be able to use enough inputs to make sure that other grains that are like wheat, maize, and rice can be grown enough to actually sustain those populations, because most of these grains require a lot of input. So those inputs like irrigation, fertilizer, and all these kind of pesticides, they need much higher. Sorghum has a much less lower need for these inputs than these other crops. So in Africa, a lot of farming is really fragmented and subsistence based. Farmers who are smart enough to at least keep sorghum in their fields, they have something and they have food. So that is an important lesson. So we should make sure that the farmers don't have the need to want to grow alternative crops. That means you make the sorghum functional enough that they not just want to grow it as a last resort, but actually as the number one crop that they want to consume.
In southern Ethiopia, you can see this is a sorghum farm. And as you see here, it's a mountainous region. And the soil nutrients, soil fertility is really low here. It's also arid region with low rainfall, and that's why they plant sorghum here. And the sorghum is one of the main crop here. And the interesting thing is here, in order to cope up with the drought, they sow sorghum, and then they can increase their food security with this sorghum.
Our target is to create an opportunity for the farmers to have better varieties that can withstand drought and various biotic and abiotic stresses in general. We want them to use that for a long period of time, or until we replaced by other varieties. We have to engage them from the very start of our research, and they should engage in our process as well. The first one is the sustainability of the varieties and that local communities. Important to engage them. Otherwise, after we just tell them to use and go back, you may not see those varieties after maybe some years. So we want to make sure that what we introduce to the farmers should be convincing to them. There are a lot of studies and reports that specifically, if we take, for example, the dry lowland sorghum growing areas, these areas basically face a drought, intermittent drought, that basically not supporting the long maturing varieties of the farmers. But we're trying to fill it a gap that they can really get a good harvest from their long maturing, even though they may get stock, which is not really exactly the primary goal of producing sorghum. So what we basically try to do is to convince farmers they can at least get some reasonable harvest from the one that we're trying to introduce compared to the one they prefer and cultivate or grow.